Hi, it's Joy here today, and I am so excited to share two cards with you using the Fill in the Blank Christmas Cling and Clear combo and the St. Nick background Cling and Clear combo. Now to start off, this is the Fill in the Blank Christmas Cling and Clear combo. This is the St. Nick background Cling and Clear combo. The Mini Slim Masking Rectangle Stencil. The Mini Slim Candy Cane Stencil. The cardstock that I'm using is Sugar Cube, Cilantro, and Confetti Cake. The ink I'll be using is Mulled Wine, Cilantro, Cherry Pop, Cupcake, Lavender Glaze, Confetti Cake, and Sprinkles. I will also be using Oreo ink and Versamark ink, gold and white embossing powder, an acrylic block for stamping, foam sticky strips, mini wobble springs, a powder tool, blender brushes, and some Copic markers for Copic coloring. So I'm going to start with a piece of Sugar Cube cardstock cut to 3.5 by 6 inches, which is the Mini Slim dimensions. I have taped down on top of that the Mini Slim Candy Cane stencil. You also could use pixie spray to hold your stencil to your cardstock. I am inking that up with Cherry Pop ink using my blender brushes, and I'm getting a nice good coverage, and as you can see it does look a little bit splotchy, but that is the nature of a dye ink until it absorbs into the paper, and then you've got this smooth, beautiful color. Now I'm coming in with Mulled Wine and adding that to the outside edges of this card panel. I really do love the look of that really dark, shadowy outside edge. Pulling that away, you can see this beautiful stenciled background. Now I am going to be using the St. Nick background cling stamp. In my MISTI, I have a piece of Sugar Cube cardstock cut to an A2 size piece. I'm using Oreo ink to ink that up, and I'm going to ink that up twice to get a good, crisp, clear image. Now that I'm done, I am taking the clear stamps that come in this combo and stamping in the little Santa hats. And I was deciding between the Mulled Wine or the Cherry Pop ink, and I decided for the Cherry Pop. And I wanted to pick a different Santa face because there's multiple expressions on these little Santa heads. And so I stamped his hat, and you can see the coordinating stamps that go with this background stamp. I've decided to not use those, and I'm going to be using some Copic markers. I'm coloring in his face with E30 and E11. Then I'm going to bring in the R20 for his cheeks so he can have some rosy cheeks, and a little bit at the top of his nose because it's probably a little bit frostbitten. And then for the white parts of his hat and his beard, I am coming in with T1 and then blending that out with the blender pen from the Copic markers. That's just to soften that. The reason why I'm adding gray to the white is so it doesn't look unfinished. It still looks like it is colored. And I'm using the coordinating die to cut out this cute little Santa head. This comes in the Clear and Cling combo set. And now, isn't that cute? Okay, so now I'm using the Ho 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 from Fill in the Blank Christmas Cling and Clear combo, inking that up and stamping that with Cherry Pop ink on a piece of Sugar Cube cardstock. I trimmed that down. It is 6 inches long, and I matted that on a piece of Cilantro cardstock, and I'm adhering that to the center of our stenciled background, and I'm using the grid paper there to help me line it up. I'm prepping the background panel with my powder tool because I want to be doing some gold embossing. I'm taking the stars stamp from the St. Nick Cling and Clear background combo, and I'm stamping a couple of those towards the top, sprinkling on some gold embossing powder. Then I'm going to bring in my sentiment and just line that up so I know where to stamp the stars towards the bottom, adding some gold embossing powder to that. And then I'm going to heat that through until it's melted. I am going to use a little paintbrush just to wipe off any of the little remaining pieces of embossing powder that might be on there. I'm going to adhere that to a piece of Cilantro cardstock, which is trimmed about 1/4 of an inch smaller on the top and the bottom than my Mini Slim card base, which is made from Sugar Cube cardstock. Now we're going to add this little Santa And we're going to use the mini wobble springs to the back of him. I'm going to take off the adhesive backing and then adhere it to the Santa head, and then take off the other adhesive backing and add that to the cardstock. Now I have this put back into my MISTI, and I am stamping Merry Christmas, and that comes from the Fill in the Blank Christmas Cling and Clear combo. On to our next card. I'm using cupcake ink on a piece of sugar cube cardstock that is once again cut to 3.5 by 6 inches. And I'm just going to ink up all around the edges, leaving the center opened. We're going to be using a stencil and another color on the inside there. I'm not super worried if it looks blotchy because once again, once it soaks in the paper, it will smooth out. I am using the Mini Slim Masking Rectangle Stencil. I'm taping that in place and coming in with Lavender Glaze, which is a really beautiful purple kind of color. And this is a great color combination for kind of like an icy Christmas feel. I'm going darker around the edges of the stencil and a little bit lighter in the center. This is also going to give us dimension on this one layer card base, which helps if you don't want a bulky card. So as you can see there, I was just checking to see how much more ink I needed. I do want it a little bit darker in the center, so I'm adding a little bit more of that lavender glaze. Now I'm back to my Santas, and I've colored him in the same way that I colored him in earlier. And I'm using confetti cake ink with the little Santa hat that has snowflakes in it, and I'm stamping that in there and using the coordinating die to cut him out as well, using a little bit of Scotch removable tape to adhere that down. Now that my background is dry, I am stamping up the word snow from Fill in the Blank Christmas. I am using confetti cake and I'm inking the whole thing up and then coming back with sprinkles ink just at the top, and so you get this really nice gradation of color. Now I have a piece of confetti cake cardstock in my MISTI, and I'm prepping that with my powder tool. I'm using a sentiment from Fill in the Blank Christmas, which says Let It, and I'm going to stamp that with Versamark ink and use white embossing powder. And then I'm going to heat that through until it's melted and trim that down to a smaller size. Now I'm going to prep this whole panel with my powder tool. I want to stamp some snowflake images from the Saint Nick background Cling and Clear combo. I'm using an acrylic block. I have one snowflake on one side and another snowflake on the other side, and I just flip it around when I want the different sizes of snowflakes. I'm going to stamp those images and then add some white embossing powder. And then I'm going to come back in and stamp a few more of those snowflake images. Once I'm all done, then I will use my heat tool and heat it completely until it is melted. Then I'm going to add a piece of sugar cube cardstock behind this card panel, and then add that to a 3.5 by 6 card base made from confetti cake cardstock. Then I added a foam sticky strip behind the Let It Snow sentiment, and then used a mini wobble spring behind that cute Santa head. Thank you guys so very much for watching. You can find all of these products at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com.